We talked about the supply chain or supply shortages, but there's been a lot of supply chain demands, delays rather, that have affected us and that have even affected us as customers, as consumers. We're not just marketers and advertisers, we're also people who have seen these things affect the way that we're able to consume things that we've otherwise historically relied upon. There's also been an associated impact on production costs that has a lot to do with the inflation and interest rate hikes, and then also those supply chain changes. And those things ultimately affect both volatility as it relates to demand, people not reacting and or purchasing as they otherwise historically would, either because those products are not available or because they are not reacting to products or services as in the way that they historically have been. And finally, it's a more competitive labor market. So some of the jobs that we're expecting people to fill, they may not be falling into them as easily as we otherwise historically have been able to rely on them to, as unemployment rates are at an all-time low. So that's one side of the business of some of these key economic challenges. There's also consumer challenges. So that increased price sensitivity. People are not used to paying a particular price. They're looking for a different price point or a more reasonable price point according to them. There are now more irregular purchase behaviors. That goes back to the demand volatility point that we talked about for economic challenges. And now there are some irrelevant products and services. So maybe there was a really healthy segment that we historically could rely upon. And if we were to market those things in larger advertising campaigns at this moment in time, they may not be fitting as well as they historically otherwise have. And then finally, faltering loyalty. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that change in loyalty in just a little bit.
Noor, any examples as you were doing research, other companies or clients that you've worked with that may be interesting to share?
Across, I guess, like there's a series of categories where this is being considered. Honestly, we went through so many, right, with like some of the things that Kaitlin just took us through. So I'm wondering as far as something that would be really additive on top of that conversation. So maybe my reaction is sharing a little bit more of a favorite among some of what Kaitlin has shared. And it goes back to a consumer category. Like Kaitlin and I connected on the retail clothing example, the apparel example, just leaning into something that has happened not that long ago, but something that many folks are thinking about because we are so much more increasingly price sensitive. And then even that example, and I know banking is a very specific category, or the investing space, to use the Merrill Lynch example and showcasing like what is something that is actually going to get a customer to lean into an ad. So I think it goes back to exercise work. Like, what does that look like? How do you offer something of substantive value to make sure that people actually want to click and engage relative to what you can offer related to a larger marketing strategy? So anyways, that's more of a trend than it is like a specific example, but I think it's something important for advertisers and agencies and brands.